It was one of the great mysteries of the New World, a civilization that built stone cities taller than European cathedrals, a people who invented the concept of zero centuries before Europe learned it, mathematicians who charted the planet Venus to the day, astronomers who predicted eclipses 1,000 years in advance. And then, sometime between 750 and 950 of the Common Era, they vanished. For more than 100 years, scholars asked the same haunting question: where did the Maya go? The collapse was real, and it was catastrophic. One after another, the great cities of the southern lowlands fell silent. Tikal, Palenque, Calakmul, Caracol, Yachilan, Copan. Royal stelae stopped being carved. Temple construction halted. Populations that may have reached between 10 and 16 million people in the Maya lowlands alone simply melted into the jungle. Theories multiplied for a century: drought, endemic warfare, soil exhaustion, peasant revolt. A megadrought hypothesis backed by lake sediment cores from Yucatan suggests rainfall fell by up to 70%. But droughts do not erase a people. So where did 10 million Maya disappear to? The answer, when it finally came from 7 skeletons in Honduras. The story does not begin in a laboratory. It begins in the Copan Valley of western Honduras in 1989. A team of archaeologists from the University of Pennsylvania, led by Robert Scherer, William Fash, and David Sadat, began tunneling beneath a temple known as Structure 10L16. What they found astonished them. Tomb after tomb, nested like Russian dolls, each one belonging to a different king. The deepest of them, called the Hunol tomb, held a left-handed man with jade dental inlays, a healed perifracture on his right forearm, and a burial chamber built in the unmistakable architecture of central Mexico. 600 years later, on a stone altar above the tomb, the same man was portrayed in profile, left-handed, shielding his right arm. They believed they had found Kinich Yaxcook Mo, the sun-faced Quetzalcoatl, the founder of the Copan dynasty, who arrived in the city on February 8th, 427 CE strontium and oxygen isotope studies later confirmed he was not born in Copan. But where was he from, Tikal or Teotihuacan? For 25 years, the bones refused to answer. Enter geneticists at Trinity College Dublin. In May 2025, a team led by Madeline Murray, Shigeki Nakagome, and the Honduran archaeologist Seiichi Nakamura published a paper in the journal Current Biology that did what no one had ever managed before. They extracted complete ancient genomes from 7 classic period Maya skeletons recovered around Copan in a tropical climate that destroys ancient DNA almost on contact. Their secret was the petrous bone, the densest piece of the human skull, 3 times richer in genetic material than any other bone in the body. Out of 16 candidates, 7 yielded clean, sequenceable genomes. Among them were 2 stunning individuals. One was a 5th century elite ruler, codenamed CPM-13, buried with 2 enormous jade pectorals carrying the iconography of rulership and war. The other was the man buried directly beside him, almost certainly a sacrificial companion. The team compared their genomes to ancient DNA samples spanning the entire Americas, going back more than 5,000 years. What they found rewrote the entire question. The first reveal was simple, and it overturned a century of public misconception. The Maya did not go extinct. The Copan genomes cluster together with skeletons from Belize, dated to 3,700 years before the Common Era. They cluster with the terminal classic genomes from Chichen Itza. They cluster with colonial-era skeletons from Campeche, and they cluster with modern Maya speakers living today in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. An unbroken biological thread, 5,700 years long. The second reveal was where the story turned. Around the time of the dynastic founding in the early 5th century, an outside ancestry suddenly appears in the elite tier at Copan. Roughly 6% of their genome traces back to the highlands of central Mexico, the same broad region that was home to the great metropolis of Teotihuacan. The third reveal made the team pause. The dynastic ruler and the sacrificed man buried beside him share the exact same Y chromosome lineage, but they are not biological relatives. Ceremonial role at Copan, even the role of dying with your king, was not inherited. It was assigned. And the fourth reveal aligned the genetics with the great mystery itself. Effective population size at Copan begins to collapse around 750 CE. exactly when the archaeology says the cities began to fail. On January 16th, 378 CE, the great city of Tikal, 250 kilometers north of Köpen, recorded the arrival of strangers. A warlord named Siaj Kak, whose name means fire is born, swept into the central Peten from the west. The local king died the same day. Within a year, a new dynasty was installed, the son of a Teotihuacan lord called Spear Thrower Owl. The Mayanist, David Stewart, decoded these texts in the year 2000. For 25 years, his Entrada hypothesis was debated. Were these real warriors crossing 1,000 kilometers, or were Maya kings simply borrowing Mexican fashion? 48 years after Siaj Kak entered Tikal, Kinich Yax Kokmo founded the Köpen dynasty, wearing the goggle-eyed headdress of the central Mexican rain god Tlaloc, and building tombs in pure Teotihuacan architectural style. The Murray paper provides the biological evidence the Entrada hypothesis had always needed. The chain runs from Teotihuacan to Tikal to Köpen. Highland Mexican lords, or Maya elites who had spent generations within Teotihuacan's orbit, moved south, took thrones, and married into local noble families. The Y chromosomes moved with them. The matriline stayed put. A genetic fingerprint of male-mediated political conquest was written into bone and read 1,500 years later. So the classic Maya collapse was real. Around 750 CE, the population at Köpen began to fall. Drought, warfare, depleted soil, elite over-extraction, all of it bore down at once. By 822 CE, a pretender named Ukit Tuk could not even finish carving his accession altar. The dynasty was over, the cities emptied, the jungle came back, but the people did not vanish. They scattered into highland villages, into the Yucatan, into Chiapas and Belize. And today their descendants, more than 6 million people speaking 30 distinct Mayan languages, live on the same land where their ancestors built pyramids. They are still there, in towns and milpas within sight of the ruins. We just spent 150 years asking the wrong question. The Maya did not disappear. What collapsed was the kings, not the people. And after 1,200 years of speculation, 7 skeletons in Honduras finally told us so. If you found this fascinating, hit subscribe for more stories about how modern science is rewriting the deep past. Tell me in the comments which lost civilization you want me to investigate next. See you in the next video.